Hey guys, all right, so we are going to start Junie B. First Grader, Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, P.S. So does May. It's a weird time of year to be reading about Christmas time, but it's the book we're on, so we're going to read it. All right, chapter 1 is called Peace and Goodwill. And just so you guys know, this is quite a long Junie B. book, so each day I'm going to be reading a little bit longer than I normally have in weeks past, okay? All right, dear first grade journal. Yay, hooray! Today is the last week before winter break. Winter break is the school word for, I gotta get out of this place, I tell ya, because Blabbermouth May is driving me crazy. She's tattletaling on me every day. Yesterday, I chased her down on the playground and I threw grass on her head. It was very fun. Except I hope Santa didn't see me do that. That guy watches me like a hawk. From Junie B. First Grader. P.S. Hey, wait, I almost forgot. Today, all the first grades are going to sing holiday songs together. That's going to be a hoot, I tell ya, because just then I stopped writing because I couldn't believe my eyeballs. That Snoopy head May was stretching her neck across the aisle and she was reading my journal page. I slammed my book shut speedy fast. This is none of your beeswax, sister. But May was already jumping out of her chair. Mr. Scary, Junie Jones wrote a bad name about me in her journal. She wrote that I am a bladdermouth, and bladder is not a nice word. I rolled my eyes at that comment. It's not bladdermouth, it's blabbermouth, May. Blabbermouth is spelled with B's, not D's. Mr. Scary stood up at his desk. Girls, please, he said. Then he was going to growl at us probably, but the phone rang from the office and he had to answer it. I crossed my arms at May. B is the same letter that you always forget in my name, so maybe I should use B in a sentence for you. I leaned close to her ear. Dear Blabbermouth May, my name is Junie B. Jones. How come you can't remember B's? Huh, May? Huh? Are you a blockhead or something? May's face got puffery. Then she grabbed my journal off my desk and started to rip out the page. I tried to grab it back from her, but she wouldn't let go of it. So then we got into a tuggle. I pulled real hard, and then she pulled harder, and then I pulled with all my might, and me and my journal went flying back to my seat. I hugged my book all safe and sound, but something didn't feel right. I looked down. During the tuggle, May's sweater sleeve got hooked on my thumb. So, her sleeve got stretched across the aisle with me. I quick untangled it from my thumb, but the sleeve didn't bounce back. Instead, it just stayed on my lap real droopish. I did a gulp. Then, really slowly, I looked over at May. And, boom, her whole stack went off. She exploded out of her seat and hollered at the top of her lungs. Mr. Scary, Junie Jones wrecked my sweater sleeve. Mr. Scary hung up the phone. I quick wadded up May's sleeve and I tried to give it back to her, but she wouldn't even take it. So the sweater sleeve just unrolled itself onto the floor. May's eyeballs popped out of her head. Ah, it's all the way to the floor. It's ruined. My sweater is ruined. I tapped my fingers very thinking, well, the whole sweater isn't ruined. It's just that sleeve, May. If you grow one arm to the ground, it'll fit perfectly. May opened up her mouth to holler again, but Mr. Scary was hurrying down our row. He did not say a word to us. Instead, he took May and me by our hands and rushed us into the hall. May's sweater sleeve dragged on the floor behind her. She picked it up real limp. Look at this. Just look at it, Mr. Scary. Junie Jones wrecked my sweater. Junie Jones wrecks everything. I did a mad breath. I don't wreck everything. And anyway, it wasn't my fault. You're the one who started it, May. You stole my journal. Mr. Scary looked down at me. Stole, he said. The word is stole, Junie B., not stoled. I sucked in my cheeks, because now was not the time for grammar. Fine, she stole my journal. She just grabbed it right off my desk and tried to rip a page out. May kept on arguing. I only took her journal because she wrote a bad word about me. I stamped my foot. But May wouldn't even know about that word. if she didn't snoop. Snooping in someone's private journal is an invasion of their piracy. Mr. Scary did a frown. Privacy. It's invasion of privacy, not piracy. For the love of Pete, can you just let it go? I'm trying to make a point here, I said. Mr. Scary glared his eyes and he said for me to calm down. I am calm, I hollered back. Then I got marched to the water fountain and I had to drink some sips of water to settle myself. I drank and I settled, and then I wiped off my mouth and I rocked back and forth on my feet, kind of nervous. Sorry I got mad, Mr. Scary, I said. I looked up at him. Sometimes grammar just makes my head explode, I said. Mr. Scary smiled a little bit, and then he took me back to May and he talked to us in a calm voice. I really don't understand your behavior, girls. The holidays are the time of year when we want to spread peace and goodwill, and you two are treating each other worse every day. We both pointed at each other. It's her fault, we shouted together. Mr. Scary shook his head. I don't really care whose fault it is, he said. If you two have another fight today, then you will be going to the principal's office. There will be no holiday sing-along for either one of you. Instead, you're going to park yourself in principal's office. My body did a shiver at those words because I've parked at principal's before and there's not a lot of singing that goes on down there. So what's it going to be, girls? Do you want to shake hands and make up, or do you want to spend the afternoon in the office? My eyes glanced over to May. She was standing as still as a statue, and her eyes were staring at the floor. I waited and waited for her to shake hands with me, but she did not look up. Finally, Mr. Scary tapped his annoyed foot at us. Well? I waited some more, but May did not budge herself. That's how come I did a big, loud breath, and I picked up May's sweater sleeve and gave it a shake. There. Fine. I shaked with her. Shook, said Mr. Scary. Whatever, I said. Then I dropped the sleeve on the floor and kicked it to May with my foot. She did a gasp. Then she quick picked it up and swatted the dirt off on my pants. Quit it, I yelled. Mr. Scary snapped his fingers at us. May stopped swatting. I was just getting the dust out, she said. Mr. Scary filled his cheeks up with air, and he let it out real slow. He took us by our hands and walked us back to room 1. Peace and goodwill does not come easy. All right, chapter 2 is called Jingle Hats. The rest of the morning we did arithmetic. Arithmetic is the school word for adding and taking away. But I couldn't concentrate on my numbers because May kept giving me mean looks and flopping her sweater sleeve around. Pretty soon there was a knock on the door. Come in, please, said room 1. Mr. Scary taught us how to say that, but I don't even know why, because people come in anyway. The door opened really slow, and it was Mr. Toot, the music teacher. He was carrying a big brown box in his arms. It was dusty, I think, because when he plopped it on the floor, Sheldon started to sneeze his head off. Sheldon is very allergic to dust particles and hoagies and dairy products and nature. Achoo, achoo, achoo. Mr. Scary looked at him panicked and then quick picked up a tissue box and rushed to Sheldon. But Sheldon was already wiping his nose on his shirt sleeve. Ha! I beat you again, Mr. Scary. I beat you at that race every time I sneeze. Mr. Scary closed his eyes. I've told you before, Sheldon, we're not racing. Sheldon laughed. Then he threw his fist in the air and he shouted, Sheldon Potts rules! Mr. Scary rolled his eyes and moved the dust box far away from Sheldon's desk. And the music teacher lifted the lid. I stood up to look and, wowie wow wow, guess what was in there? Elf clothes, that's what. There were little green elf hats with jingle bells and little cute elf vests with belts. Mr. Toot held them up for us to see. Boys and girls, our PTA made these costumes several years ago for holiday sing-alongs. Aren't they great? Every first grader gets to wear one today. He started passing them out. My rich friend Lucille got hers first. She looked at it and made a face. Okay, number 1, I don't wear this shade of green. And number 2, I don't wear bell hats. Mr. Scary looked up at the ceiling, and then he took Lucille by her hand and walked her into the hall. Pretty soon, she came back wearing her bell hat. Pretty soon, the rest of room 1 was wearing our hats too, and we would shake our heads. Hey, these sound jingly. The room sounds like a sleigh. Mr. Toot did a chuckle. You're right, Junie B. Every year, one lucky class gets to wear the Jingle Bell hats. And this year, because room 1 has been so well behaved in music class, I chose you. All the children clapped and cheered, except not Lucille. Instead, she threw her hands in the air and shouted, "What are the odds?" After that, she flopped her head on her desk and didn't come up again. Mr. Toot just ignored her. And that's not all my good news either. Each year, the class with the bell hats gets to go on stage and lead the whole auditorium in singing Jingle Bells. Room 1 jumped from our seats. Jingle bells, jingle bells, yay, we're going to lead Jingle Bells. Mr. Toot smiled. Okay, everyone, just to make sure you know the words, we're all going to have a really short rehearsal. Rehearsal! We shouted, yay, rehearsal! Only too bad for us, because rehearsal was nothing to shout about. We sang that song a jillion times, I bet. At first it was fun, and then it got real boring. So I started to sing my own words. They were funny. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg, Batmobile lost its wheel, and Joker got away. Herbert and Lenny laughed and laughed and laughed. May did a gasp, and then she sprang up like a spring and started to tattle. Mr. Toot, Junie Jones is singing the wrong... I pulled at her skirt. May, are you crazy? You and I can't fight. If you tattletale on me, we're parking ourselves at Principal's. May covered her mouth with her hands and sat down. Never mind, she said. I wiped my worried forehead. Whew, that was a close one. I saved our gooses. May leaned across the aisle. You did not save our gooses, Junie Jones. I did. I'm the one who didn't tattle. She pointed her finger at me. But you better not sing those bad words at the sing-along, and I mean it, Junie Jones. If you sing those bad words on stage, I will tell on you no matter what. Robin laid an egg is not bad words, May. An egg is nothing for a bird to be ashamed of. I don't care. It doesn't matter, she said. You already ruined enough today, Junie Jones. You ruined my sweater, you ruined my mood, and you're not going to ruin the sing-along, too. She crossed her arms at me. Even if I get in trouble, even if I get in trouble myself, I will still tell on you. You can count on that. Then she leaned back in her chair and she brushed her hands together all smuggy. I looked and looked at that girl. May is off her rocker, I believe. All right, we are going to read chapter 3 today, too. Laughing all the way. We went to the sing-along after lunch, and the auditorium looked like Santa's workshop. There were elves in that place. And wait till you hear this. Room 1 got to sit in the very first row. I sat in the seat right next to my friend Herbert. This sing-along is going to be so fun, right? Right? This sing-along is going to be the time of our lives. Then May popped down on the seat on the other side of me. I stopped smiling. That seat is saved, May. I'm saving it for someone else. She looked all around. For who? For anyone that's not you. That's who. May did not budge. You can't make me move, Junie Jones. This seat is public property. She scooted closer to me. I'm going to stick to you like glue. It's the only way to make you behave today. I showed her my teeth and made a grrr noise. May did not look fearful. Finally, I moved over to Herb and pretended she was invisible. Then the sing-along got started. The first song was 12 Days of Christmas. It's about a guy who gives his girlfriend a bunch of silly presents. What do you think, or what would you do with 10 lords a-leapin', do you think? I asked him. He thought for a minute. I'd take them back and get store credit, he said. I nodded. Herb has all the answers. After that, we sang Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Winter Wonderland. Then Mr. Toot stood up on his piano and said it's time for Jingle Bells. We hurried to the stage. It was very thrilling, except for May wouldn't leave me alone. She kept stepping on my heels going up the steps, and then she crowded in real close to me and whispered in my ear, I'm listening to you, Junie Jones. I'll hear every word you sing. I smiled to myself, because I had a surprise up my arm. That's why. Pretty soon, Mr. Toot raised his hands to start the song. I stood up straight and tall. I took a big breath, and I sang the words out loud and clear. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. My eyes glanced over at May. I smiled, and then I took another breath, and I sang the chorus in her ear. Jingle bells, Batman smells, P.S. so does May. I'd throw May right off the sleigh, and then I'd drive away. All right. Hey, yelled May. I laughed at that comment because hey fit right into the song. Room 1 sang the chorus again, but I was laughing too hard to sing. It was the joke of my life, I tell you. But too bad for me, because as soon as we got back to the room, May tattletaled her head off. It was not good. Mr. Scary called us up to his desk, and he said he's very disappointed in us, and unfortunately, there's not enough time left in the day to send us to the office. So I started to relax, but just then the bad news came. Because what do you know? Mr. Scary said there wasn't enough time for him to write a note to our parents. All right, tomorrow we'll read chapter 4.